So good afternoon to everybody. Hope everybody can listen and hear just fine. If you're having trouble at all, you might look at your volume and see if maybe it's down. I do that a lot when I enter webinars. And so I appreciate when folks mention it. To get started today, we're super excited about this third Master Plan Community Ecoregions Experiences event. The first two events were held, one last February at the community of Bridgeland on the west side in Fort Bend County and Harris County. And it was in person, which was very exciting. And then the second MPC E3, which is our acronym for this program, was held at Cross Creek Ranch in, again, sort of the West Houston Fulshear area. And then we have today's MPC E3, which we're excited about. And that one in October was virtually. Today's is virtual. And the nice thing about that is that we end up with videos afterwards that we can post on our website. And I'll talk a little bit about that after we run through the video. Let me do a couple housekeeping items, and then we're going to launch right into the video. First, I want to thank Mud 23 and Ellen Hughes, and you're going to hear more about or from Ellen about Mud 23 and hear just a little bit with the video. I also want to thank the Association of Water Board Directors for their involvement, sponsorship, and assistance with video. And then also the West Houston Association for their, again, co-hosting sponsorship as well. And we really appreciate that support and involvement in this effort. The other thing I want to mention is that the idea behind the MPC E3 really was twofold. One was just to highlight generally what doesn't often get a lot of attention, which is that these districts and master plan communities really have amazing green spaces, and they're wonderful for the community for recreational purposes, but they also serve valuable purposes related to flood control, erosion control, air pollution, absorption, all kinds of ecosystem services that are provided by these green spaces, and oftentimes serve as an important buffers against some of the more extreme environmental events that we're dealing with. So you're going to hear a little bit more about that, but that was one of and the other reason that we started this program was because we recognized that because these green spaces are so critical, we want to provide as many tools in the resilience toolbox that we can to help communities around the state and certainly around our region in Greater Houston in finding ways that they can help increase those buffers that help with various environmental events, whether they're increasing rain events, flood events, hurricanes, forest fires, whatever the case might be. We know that important role that green space plays in that. And so we know that under current state law, there is an opportunity for districts to engage in the selling of recreational bonds for purposes of green space, but that is limited to 1% of the value of the MUD or of the master plan community. And that's been going on a while. We'll talk more about that later. But what's exciting is that we now have, during this legislative session, we have HB 1410, which would allow these districts to expand beyond that 1% based on TCEQ qualifications to do so. So we're super excited and supportive of that legislation. There's a companion bill to 1410 that is SB 1959, and so we're very supportive of that legislation as well. So we're going to jump right into this video. It's about 18 minutes long. It's the sort of the meat of this webinar today. It will be available after this webinar on our website, and I'll talk more about that later. If you do have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. We will address additional questions at the end of the video. There's a little bit of Q&A during the video, but we will have some more after that if you have questions. So please enjoy the tour, and Ellen and I'll be back as soon as the 18 minutes or so are up.
I'm Deborah January Beavers, president of Houston Wilderness. Over the last year, we've seen several MPC E3 events in master plan communities where we've gotten an opportunity to see how we can go about improving and expanding ecosystem services and how we can reach the 3 key goals of the Regional Conservation Plan. We've also learned about how the 1% recreational bond is an important tool in the resilience toolbox to help us with improving current green space and expanding protected preserved land in ways that provide a variety of ecosystem services for our region. We have also seen how many, and we're going to see today, how many ways that the 1% cap on the recreational bond has still been used in significant ways to help with water quality, flood control, erosion control, and of course provide a lot of different types of recreational amenities. But we have an opportunity now with HB 1410 to be able to significantly expand that protected preserved land, to significantly expand recreational amenities, not just for those master plan communities, but for the older MUDs, which also critically need that extra green space or that enhanced green space as they're dealing with a variety of different increasing environmental stressors in their region. So come along today and let's look at MUD 23 and learn the amazing things that are happening here and what they'd like to do if they could get beyond that 1% cap.
Hi, my name is Ellen Hughes and I am a director on Fort Bend County MUD District number 23, where we are standing right now on one of our premier walking trails that we built around one of our detention ponds. I have lived in this neighborhood 27 years. I've been on the MUD board 25 years. So I've been a part of the entire sort of a 15-year journey we've been on building parks and recreation facilities as a MUD in the MUD. And I can't begin to say how much the park bond option that was given to us back in 2003 was how important that was. We had our election, we started issuing park bonds, and we started building much needed recreation facilities for our residents. We've had 2 bond sales and we're planning a 3rd in 2021. This trail that we're at right now, which is built around one of our larger detention ponds, was part of our first bond sale, and we sold park bonds the first time we built this trail. It is about an 8-foot wide concrete trail, 2/3 of a mile long, tucked away here by these homes, and it's very well used, and it was extremely well used, especially during the pandemic when residents were sort of in lockdown and just needed somewhere they could walk to. And it was just great that we had over the years developed these facilities for our residents kind of for such a time as this. This particular pond that we're on, we really do love amenitizing existing detention ponds, and we love our detention ponds. I think it brings attention to them, and these ponds were so instrumental in us not flooding. We have 4,500 homes in this MUD and over 1,300 acres, and we did not flood. Homes did not flood during Harvey, despite the unprecedented rainfall that we did get in this area. And we just love amenitizing these ponds like this. I think it draws the residents' attention to where their flood control is. It gets them close to it. But we are also running up against the cap, the 1% cap. We're not the same district we were 15 years ago. We are in an expanding district, and our valuation has grown, and our number of residents has grown over the last 15 years. So we very much support House Bill 1410 because we're one of these older MUDs that's not master planned, and so the MUD is doing the facilities ourselves, and we actually are about to hit the ceiling on the ability to issue any more park bonds because of the 1% cap. We have excellent finances, and we have the financial ability to issue more park bonds without raising tax rates for our residents. But the 1% cap it's like a ceiling we're bumping our heads up against. So we very much support House Bill 1410, so that, again, as an older non-master planned community who's just really doing this ourselves, we can continue our vision for our 1,300 acres and 4,500 residents and continue to provide the recreational facilities that they want to use.
So Ellen, could you remind us again, how old is this mud and about how many homes?
So Fort Bend County Mud 23 was first created in the 70s, and right now we have 4,500 homes, which is about 15,000 residents. But we didn't always have that many. As I mentioned, I've been in this neighborhood for 27 years. When I moved in, we had about 200 homes, maybe 300, and so we're not a master plan community. We never were. They first created the mud in the 70s, and then the oil. They built about 20 homes, a bunch of infrastructure and 20 homes, and then the oil bust hit, and it just kind of went dormant for about 5 or 6 years. And then in the early 90s, so that was kind of in the 80s. They created the mud in the 70s, the 80s, and then the early 90s it restarted, and it's never stopped since then. And we have grown by annexation. We've had multiple developers come and bring in 300 acres here, 400 acres here. So I call our district like a patchwork, like grandma's patchwork quilt.
That's perfect.
Yeah, we needed areas in and built homes with multiple developers. And again, none of it was master planned. So the mud has tried to create the feel and look of a master planned community over the last 15 years with our parks plan,
in order to provide that
exactly
green space for residents for recreation, but also obviously for all those other things it's needed for, such as detention.
Exactly. So the mud created what the developers didn't, because we weren't a master plan community. We've worked in conjunction with the HOAs and the residents, and what do you want? We've had great relationships. We have 6 different HOAs we deal with in our mud. So, I mean, it's just it's a totally different dynamic, but that 1% bond ability we got years ago has been so instrumental in letting us put things on the ground quicker, so that the residents can enjoy it now, versus if you had to build all of your facilities with cash doing pay-as-you-go. I guess the easiest way to say it, I've lived in this mud without park facilities. I've lived in this mud with park facilities. I prefer with. I've been a director on this board where we were trying to put things on the ground with cash, and I've done it with bonds, and I like bonds better. So I've lived the whole gamut of it, and it really is. It's been so beneficial to us.
And does that help the residents to have it as bonds? Does that help them?
Yes, I believe so, because first of all, they get the amenities. We can build the amenities faster instead of having to just drag it out.
You do have the 1% cap, so how does that affect your ability to add the green space and do what you want to do to it?
So right now, we're one of the districts who's really limited, because we've sold bonds twice already. We're going to do a 3rd bond sale this year, and we will be at a position with the 1% cap where we can't sell anymore, because we'll be at that 1% of our assessed valuation. And we're going to kind of have to sit on our hands for a while if we don't get the cap raised. And we actually have right now a 10-acre park. We bought the 10 acres about 8-9 years ago, and we've been sitting on it, and bought the 10 acres with park bonds, and we're going to sell
that additional green space.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to sell more park bonds this year to build out the 10 acres, but we actually can't sell enough to finish it. So we're going to build a nice park, but we're having to scale everything back about 25% because we're limited in the amount of bonds we can sell. And if we could get that cap lifted and go back to our voters for more authorization, we could finish the vision on that part. And then we have other ideas that we're not done.
Like for the community,
exactly.
That would assist them in a variety of ways.
Exactly. Yes.
So would you qualify under HB 1410 as one of the MUDs that
absolutely
that could benefit, could go to the beyond the cap?
We meet all the financial milestones or whatever they put in there, the kind of things, the targets you have to hit. Yes, we would qualify for an increased park bond. Yeah, above the 1%. We would. We're a very mature mud. We have great finances. We have plenty of bond. We have the ability and the valuation. We could sell more park bonds and not raise taxes. So when I moved into my house 27 years ago, the tax rate was $1.80. And that, of course, you have to understand it was before you couldn't, now you can't have $1.80 tax rate. We have lowered the tax rate now down to 75 cents. So that's a reduction of $1.05. And in that time, we have built all of these parks and managed our finances. So yes, we very much have the capacity to continue to issue park bonds and not affect the tax rate.
That's great. Yeah, under those 2C3 rules.
Lots of rules. We follow all the rules.
Yeah, no, of course. Oh, that's great. Well, when you mentioned we make these decisions, who is that? Who makes the decisions on what you're going to build in terms of using recreational funds?
So it starts with the 5 elected mud board directors. All 5 of our directors live in this district in different neighborhoods, and so we all come with different perspectives. But we work very closely with our HOAs and then the residents. We've had public meetings, and we talk to our residents that way, and then also a lot through the HOAs. You know, the residents will talk to the HOAs, and the HOAs talk to us. And so there's just a lot of different ways we get feedback regarding what they would like to see. And then, of course, we're also involved here. We come out here and we see what's being used, and it doesn't take a rocket science to see what residents are using and what they want more of, which is trails. They want lots of trails.
Trails, and the trails work well because they can serve that dual purpose of recreational amenity, but then also in an area that can serve for those other ecosystem
Exactly.
services, such as water, holding water,
Yes.
flood control, and those other important amenities.
And I love the trails on top of the ponds because it's free land. We already own the land, so you just put the trail on top of the land, so you just cut that cost out.
Yeah, no, I guess that's true. Absolutely. Well, so what are some of the things that you've done in this particular green space in terms of enhancements and adding additional?
So it's important. Part of the reason, you can't just build it and forget it. We've learned that lesson. And so just in this past year during the pandemic, we were able to get 100 free, fairly mature live oak trees from the county through an interlocal agreement. And they brought us the trees. They were free. They brought them all the way to us for free, and we just had to pay for installation and irrigation. So on this trail, which is 1 mile in length, we were able to space the trees out. So you almost have trees spaced out the full length of the trail. And they're wonderful. They're live oaks, which now you've told me are super trees.
Yes.
We're so excited about that. They're going to soak up all that water. But also you have to have, when you're doing parks, you have to have a vision. And so I love seeing these trees now. Some people might say, oh yeah, they're not doing much, but you give them 10 years and this 1 mile walk could almost be completely shaded. And that's just, and I grew up in New Orleans, and we have so many old mature trees in uptown New Orleans, and I think of all those shaded boulevards, and that's kind of you have to have that vision. This is not just for today, it's for the future.
Yeah, well, in fact, speaking of that, what you've described is very interesting in terms of the way your bud has really expanded. So it's not just that your existing homeowners from maybe 20 years ago need additional green space, which they do, but now you've got all these additional residents. Is that similar to other MUDs, or?
Yeah, so I am very much in favor of House Bill 1410, not just for me and other MUDs like me right now, but for the future. In 10 years, there are MUDs now who will look like me in 10 years.
Oh,
they're going to be mature MUDs in 10 or 12 years. And they may have more acreage and more land and more residents, and they're gonna realize. And when you realize you're in a situation where you're not going to be annexed by the city anytime soon, you need the ability to provide what your residents need now. We can't sit around waiting for annexation or for the city or the county to build something. We are trying to build for our residents, and the residents who enjoy it will pay for it. Just though, and so yeah, we got to look down the road, because there are I call them baby MUDs. I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but they will be mature MUDs like me one day,
right?
And they're going to want more than the 1%.
Yeah, and that is true. I mean, there's hundreds of MUDs, certainly in our region, but in other parts of the state as well. Right, thousands. And so you're right. Every year there's a lot of them getting older and older. You're looking at 20, 40, 60 MUDs, and different needs associated with that. You mentioned the property that you all bought, and is that a situation where, I know that you brought the residents together, you all have looked at designs, you've mentioned that. is that a situation where if you didn't have the 1% cap, would you be able to complete it faster so that the residents could enjoy it?
Absolutely, absolutely. We could have, yes, and yes, we could have completed it faster. And we're confident we're going to work around it and build what we can with the cap. But it would have been nice not to have the cap and to be able to finish the whole park all at once,
right?
And not have to phase it in.
Right.
Yes.
More residents, that are here now.
Yes.
Future residents can enjoy it, but the current
residents can enjoy it.
So critical, particularly as you mentioned in this time of COVID and other times where you need the recreational amenities, but then you also need the heavy rain events and those things. You need all those extra.
Exactly.
Well, it's just a beautiful place.
We love it. It's really warmed my heart during the pandemic to come out and see how well facilities and trails we dreamed of and put in the ground 10 years ago were used in 2020 during the pandemic.
Right.
It was just, the timing was perfect. Yes.
Well, and that brings up a good point, which is while maybe residents can get in the car and drive somewhere, that wasn't really a possibility in COVID. So did you notice that the fact that they had access within just quarter mile or less of their homes?
I think that's critical. Absolutely. People just wanted to walk outside of their home. It doesn't need to be a big production. When we have such great weather here in Houston, to be able to just say, hey kids, let's go walk to the park. Not, hey kids, let's get in the car, let's get in your car seat, let's load up people should be able to have recreation at their fingertips. There's a time and place to go to a regional park or a state park, but during the week when people are busy, they just want to go someplace quickly where it's easy and it's right there in their neighborhood.
Well, thank you for
showing
us around
today.
I
love showing off my parks.
While we're scrolling the many folks who have been involved in helping us put these MPC E3s together, including Representative Murphy, who we thank for being the sponsor of HB 1410. I have to say again, as I watched that, just like when we were out there, Ellen, I really wanted to put my running shoes on and go running.
I know, you kept saying that. I wish I had my running shoes. Oh, and can we just talk about my hair? That was really awful.
Yeah, well, the wind. Yeah,
the wind.
I
just want to let everybody know there was a wind issue.
I think it was very clear that it was a breezy day.
Yeah, we were definitely on site. The mowers, the wind, the birds. We had it all.
That's right. A lot of birds showed up for a cameo.
Yes.
Well, thank you again for taking the time to really highlight what's going on with Mud 23. It really is a beautiful place for all those residents and provides that resilience for the community, not flooding in Harvey, which is just fabulous. I want to mention again to all those listening, and for anyone future who maybe came in halfway through the video and you'd like to see the whole thing, it will be on the Houston Wilderness website. You can click under events and then click on MPC E3 and you'll find not only this video there, but the videos from last October as well, and additional information on the legislation and all that kind of good stuff. I do, and if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the Q&A. I have a couple here that have come in prior to the event, so let me get to those, and then it looks like there might be something coming in on the Q&A. Could you, and this didn't get completely explained, I think, during the video, could you explain why 1% is what the original law was, the 1% cap?
So ironically, in 2003, when that was first passed, I testified at that time and I luckily was last week you and I got to go testify this year, but I was there in 2003. I was much younger. That was 18 years ago. And that's what we could get at the time was 1%. I mean, that was, I'm sure in all the compromises, that's what the legislature would pass.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, I mean, I guess you consider the last 18 years almost like training wheels. Like, okay, 1%. I mean, you can't go lower than 1%. I guess you could, but so, and it's just worked so well these past it's been 18 years. I mean, I just think it's time to take the training wheels off and let MUDs just fall under the existing TCEQ rules, which work really well, the debt to value ratios, and if a mud has the ability to go above the 1%, 1.25%, 1.5%, 2%, using those debt to value ratios, I think they should, just like we do with all our other bonds.
Well, that is actually a perfect segue to this other question I have here, which is under HB 1410, what are these TCEQ requirements to qualify to be able to use more than 1%?
It just falls back to the existing TCEQ rules that are already in place, that, as I think your one pager mentions, they're considered kind of the gold standard, and that it's the same debt to value ratios we currently use right now for other water, sewer, drainage infrastructure. So we've set parks aside and given it its own little 1% cap for 18 years, and we've proven how beneficial it is, and it's not been abused, and there's tons of checks and balances when we go to sell these bonds. And so it's just kind of using that debt to value ratio. I will put a plug in for anyone listening that the one pagers on your Houston Wilderness website are excellent. There's a one pager, and I love one pagers because who has time to read more than one page? So there's a great one pager on the actual bill, and there's a great, if you really want to get in the weeds, technical one pager that's very well written, that explains all of this and how the 1% gets kind of lifted with this 1410.
Thanks. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Those two one pages are found on our website on the left-hand side, or you can also click under programs and Gulf Houston Regional Conservation Plan, and you can find both of those one pagers there. So, you know, like I said, one is more of just a general overview of both 1410, HB 1410 and SB 1959, the companion bill. And then the other one pager, yes, that technical dive into, well, what are those TCEQ requirements?
The TCEQ,
they're a little bit, bit more
in the weeds,
but in a good way. So we do have a question here from Jim Robertson. Thank you, Jim. First, he says, great job on what you've done in Mud 23. I agree. Has there been any consideration of adding wetland, trees, etc. to the dry bottom detention ponds?
In my ponds?
Yes.
No, not in my ponds. We have not. Now, I am slightly intrigued based on our conversations just in the last 3 weeks as we've gotten to know each other about
we had a bit of this conversation. Yeah,
we did. And so it's something that we've just been trying to get physical recreational facilities that people can use, and I definitely see the value of those. But you know, there's something you look at, and you know, you just gotta take your crawl before you walk. So we've really been focused, and we have so many more. I mean, we have so many other facilities that we didn't even show. We have 2 other trails. We have some things we built with cash. We didn't use park bonds for everything, but we have so many different types of facilities. But it could be on the horizon, which would be great, and I would need more money. So
that's great. Well, and I for those that maybe want to see how you can do something like that with a depressed detention area, the video of Cross Creek Ranch does show some of the newer MUDs and master plan communities, and Bridgeland is the same way, that are doing that are adding some wetland features and large scale tree planting to their either dry or wet detention areas. That is, I think, more and more the wave you know, going forward. But again, this gets us to, you all had to think of what absolutely you wanted to do because you had that 1% cap. Without that, you could look at, okay, let's talk about that wetland, bringing in more of the nature-based infrastructure as part of the detention basin, drier detention basin areas. And you'd be able to, you know, to look at being able to afford to do some of those even higher enhanced areas. So that's a good question, because it does bring up a lot of these other types of environmental enhancements that really would be beneficial with the passage of HB 1410. So I appreciate that question. I think that might be the only ones in the Q&A. I think we've answered quite a bit. If you all, anyone has additional questions or thoughts, or ideas and you want to pass them our way, we appreciate it. Also, if you would like your district or master plan community to be highlighted in one of our future MPC E3s, we would love to hear from you. Each one has a very unique aspect to them. And so, you know, that's part of what this is all about, is both highlighting these amazing green spaces in these residential areas, and then also, you know, showing why legislation such as HB 1410 and SB 1959 are so critical to continue to increase the green space and nature-based infrastructure in all these different districts and master plan communities. So I think with that, we're going to wrap it up. I know a lot of folks are thrilled when a virtual forum ends promptly and allows them to go on to another event. Thanks to everyone. What a great group that is called in today. We sure appreciate it. And everybody have a, make sure I didn't miss any. Wait, there might be one more question. Hold on. Oh, okay. One more question, then we'll wrap it up. Do we anticipate any opposition to HB 1410 or SB 1959? Well, so I can feel that, having just been up at the legislature with Ellen last week testifying in front of the House Land and Resource Management Committee, which actually is hearing again today a variety of different bills. They may very well pass HB 1410 out today. I don't know, but it was heard last week, and we had very good reception from all of the committee members. We had all the people testified in favor of it. We have not indicated or shown any sign of opposition, and we're super excited about that. And you know, I think one of the reasons may be because we are indeed seeing all these more frequent rain events, fire events, droughts, which maybe we don't have in our region right now, but other parts of the state are still dealing with. So the recognition of how important green space is and nature-based infrastructure to the region and to the state is certainly highlighted. Last year's passage of the Flood Infrastructure Fund, you know, kind of ties into the same type of bill we're looking at now, which is tools in the resilience toolbox. You know, in order to be able to do these things that we all think are needed for the region, we have to have those vehicles in which to do it. And that is what one of these.
I love your toolbox analogy. I use that all the time too. You know, with MUDs, you know, we have a toolbox, and not every MUD wants to use all the tools.
Yeah, and that's okay.
It's okay. I have literally gone to MUDs before. I've been invited to speak and talk to them, and they're just like, we don't want to do parks, and that's fine. You just want to be a water, sewer, and drainage MUD, you know.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's I love the toolbox. You know, it's just but you need the toolbox for the MUDs that do want to step a little bit
for those
outside.
that want to do it, and yeah, and among other things. And in fact, speaking of toolbox, let me just say a plug for under that same place where you can see the 2 one-pagers on the bill. That's going to HoustonWilderness.org, clicking on programs, and Gulf Houston Regional Conservation Plan, or RCP. Also on there are one-pagers on our 3 key goals related to green space and nature-based infrastructure. And those list a whole variety of different tools available in the toolbox, which was talked about a little bit on the video, but I did want to point out that you can see those on our website as well. So, all right, well, I think that wraps it up. Thanks again, everybody, for attending. We'll have another one of these probably sometime midsummer, and appreciate very much everyone's support of HB 1410. Feel free to contact legislators and let them know of your support. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah.
Thanks. Everybody have a great day.